good morning. How is everybody today? We're doing well, we're excited. I am really excited. I'm really honored, actually, to be here. I'm one of IQ Business's biggest fans, and I'm excited to share the story that we have embarked on in Switzerland at our business school. First of all, a little bit about me. I'm just going to put up some things here. I've actually been in IT on the bleeding edge of technology for almost 30 years, 28 years, which is going to age me. Starting with the dot-com heydays, moving into pharmaceuticals. I've been a developer. I've worked in service management. I've built servers and networks and supported. And written books and co-founded teams in, the world's oldest business school, the Wharton School. You can probably hear from my accent, I don't sound too Swiss or Swazi. I'm a Philly girl. I was in the United States for a number of years and worked at the Wharton School, so in higher education, co-founding teams that looked at how we made learning more interactive, more engaging, and more effective. We know that sitting in audiences, that's not how we learn. And so we built a team, me and my co-founder, that quite literally uses games to teach. And those games are now being played all over the world. We have 4,000 educators using our games in classes in over 125 countries, and millions of players. So really, really proud of the work I did at Wharton. And then came to IMD, a business school in Switzerland, with a new purpose. And there I lead our IT, I lead our AI, and our learning innovation. And today we're going to talk about AI. IMD is one of the first business schools in the world. We're actually the first business school to really AI enable our entire business curriculum. A little bit about IMD. We're very Swiss. We're very humble. You probably, unless you're some of our clients, and we do have clients in Africa, you may not have ever heard of us. We are a top-ranked business school. We have campuses in Lausanne, right on Lake Geneva. We also have a campus in Singapore. We have an innovation hub here in Cape Town, and our partners at IQ have been helping us to build that. We now have almost 30 staff working on development, IT, product management, etc. The reason I came to IMD is because of our purpose. We're challenging what is, inspiring what could be. We develop leaders and organizations who contribute more to a more prosperous, sustainable, and inclusive world. And you see that in our education. Our focus is sustainability, leadership, digital transformation. So my expertise is really at the intersection of technology and education. One thing we know about education is that there's also a heyday happening with respect to pedagogical science, how we learn, how we remember, how we apply. Also, the face of education is changed dramatically in this last few decades, but we're not quite there as far as upgrading. It might look like it's happening because so much more technology is embedded in our educational learning journeys when you move from in-person to online to XR. But if you look at these images really, really closely, the mode is still the same. Still the same as ancient Greece, thousands of years. The lecture was invented during ancient Greece, right? So how do we actually make learning better? That really is the question me and my team is asking every single day. How do we make learning more impactful? And as I said just a second ago, learning is changing. When you think about, if you're in my age category, I'm going to be 50 also this November. When I came out of university, it was almost a once and done deal. It's like you have your education, you have your degree, now off to the workforce. Work has changed. We are now in a continuous cycle of upskilling, reskilling. Deloitte is telling us we are now learning is in the flow of work. Taking that time out to go to courses, to go to degrees is becoming harder and harder to do because of that demand and that pressure to continuously upgrade ourselves. And so the demand is has never been higher for high quality, impactful education. And I spend a lot of time speaking to CLOs and CHROs about how they bring more value into the curriculum, especially in executive education. So I get this question a lot. What's coming with AI? Are all the jobs going? And I think what we're going to see is we're going to see a move where it's not necessarily that the jobs are going to go. You know, if you look at what happened with the internet revolution or past revolutions, actually new technology creates more jobs. But the face of those jobs is going to change. So there will be a job destruction process that happens. There's also going to be a job creation process happening. And then there's going to be, within our jobs, there's going to be some changes happening to what we are going to be expected, even if we're a software developer, for example. How we software develop is also going to change. This work from David Artur, 60% of jobs today didn't even exist 80 years ago, right? So that's pretty remarkable. 80 years might seem like a long, long time. These are jobs that didn't even exist 20 years ago. And I'm sure a lot of these are jobs that you have on your teams. Maybe not influencers, unless you're Jacobus, but cryptocurrency, ethical hacker, data analyst, QA analyst, application developer. How many of you have application developers in your teams, right? So these are jobs that didn't even exist 20 years ago. So let's get on to the matter of AI. So this is an artist, Refik Anadol. This is an installation in Las Vegas, Nevada. It is hundreds of meters wide and high. And what he and his team have done is they've taken imagery from nature, from space. Behind his art are machine learning algorithms, large language models to quite literally create art. And I use this video because this really shows us that this is the first time AI is creating. And I think the first time that you probably went in and used ChatGPT and asked a question and got that response, it was sort of like, whoa. And I'm sure there's been times when you've been working with generative AI and you're like, holy shit. I'm allowed to say that word, holy shit, right? And some of what's so exciting about this AI is it's very democratic. It used to be when we wanted to use AI, we had to go and find those nerdy data scientists and machine learning scientists to get them to help us. And the outcome wasn't always that good, right? It felt very woody. It didn't feel like it really was artificial intelligence. Now it really does. I joined IMD February 2023. Incredible time to be a person in technology, in learning innovation. And I saw this as an opportunity, actually, because of coming to a business school that is so entrepreneurial, is really leaning into technology innovation in education, and sat with our exco and pitched an idea, quite a radical idea at the time. And I said, one of the things that we have in education is we have a lot of limitations. We have limitations with respect to how an education institution is constructed from a data standpoint. We have lots of data silos. We have 6 research enterprises, initiatives. We have faculty and all of their thought leadership. We have books. We have a magazine with 500,000 subscribers globally. We have all of this information. But if you go onto our website and start asking questions, you don't really get all that goodness coming out. And then coming down a level, looking at where their limitations are in a classroom. So we've all been in classes. How many of you have been in a classroom situation and you've got questions as that faculty is speaking? And you want to raise your hand, and you're like, oh, my question isn't good enough yet. And you want to raise your hand, but you're like, oh, I don't want to stop the flow. There's a lot of people in this class. This has actually been researched a lot. Less than 20% of people in the class have an opportunity to raise their hand and ask a question. We also know when we research the quality of the questions being asked, and you're all hearing about being a prompt engineer, this is actually bringing up a lot of research in question asking. And the quality of question asking is going to tell you where that learner is cognitively. Are they very low cognitively, where they're just trying to understand the content? Or are they pretty high up, where they're really trying to move into more innovative, higher critical thinking layers? And so there's all these opportunities when we look at generative AI and we look at learning, And so you have probably been hearing and looking at a lot of things like, oh, an AI coach, and oh, an AI this, and an AI that. And I personally think that's just not good enough. We can do better. So I'm going to show you what we did, and then we're going to talk about it.
So IMD is all about impact, about impactful learning. And the most impactful learning is personalized learning. If I can make it real for you. So what AI does is it gives us new tools, new capabilities to help tailor insights and lessons to each individual learner. During our signature Orchestrating Winning Performance program this year, 2023, we really pushed the boundary on how we use AI. We developed a couple of prototypes. We used them with 450 participants, and we learned a tremendous amount about how AI can supplement what we do in our classrooms and programs.
You can ask this app any question you like. What was the session about? Do you have any recommendations for good books? Where is this going to be difficult for me? What were the frameworks that the faculty member specifically spoke about? And how do these frameworks apply not just to my industry, but to me specifically?
It's almost like you could walk up to the front of the room, ask the professor a question after the session, only that the whole thing happens, 3 days later, and you might not even be in the same place anymore.
I'm so proud to be at IMD because we are really at the cutting edge of various aspects of this. There's a lot of research in AI that myself and my colleagues are involved in, but that's not all. We already have a variety of courses as well as pedagogical techniques that we use to try and distribute, to try and diffuse this technology, especially among senior executives and organizations.
I've never used Chat GPT until I came to IMD. I can't draw, I can't paint. I had put in so many emotions together, and I put in those words, and all of a sudden there was a painting expressing what I felt.
It's a huge revolution because it will have not only business implications but also societal level implications. I am very positive in terms of its value in our organizations, but I'm also acutely aware, because I teach these topics, that there are many things that are often ignored about this. So we just need to make sure that these things are taken into consideration, and our leaders, our executives, make sure that they push the responsible AI agenda in their organizations.
Education is a field which is prime for disruption. It's been prime for disruption for a very long time now. The wave of new AI capabilities is going to push that disruption even further. And what we're going to now see is hyper-personalization coming to life. We're going to be able to achieve more interactivity, less passive learning modes, and the ability for learners to engage not just in courses and degrees that have a certain amount of time, but to go into lifelong growth.
The feedback we get back as faculty is really, really valuable, but also for you as an organization to know what kind of questions, what kind of issues your learners actually raised in the context of an IMD learning journey. I think that's where a lot of the value is going to be.
Right. And as you can see in the bottom right corner, this was over a year ago that we did this. So this video was actually produced a year ago. I wanted to show it because this whole thing that you saw took us 6 weeks to get this done. So I want to take you through how we did this in 6 weeks, where we're now going. I also want to be really clear about the 2 prototypes that you saw in the video. Those have now been scaled up across our curriculum. The first idea is, how do we democratize question asking? How do we do it in a really safe way? And how do we surround our learners with IMD expertise? So making sense of the class transcript, being able to ask in your mother tongue, bringing in our research, bringing in our corpus of expertise, so it's not just general large language model interactions that you're having. You're having interactions with the expertise that you have encountered during your learning journey with IMD. The second concept you saw is a AI art reflection. So the one that you saw in the video was using DALL-E 2. We are now using DALL-E 3. It looks a lot better. This again goes to the pedagogical sciences of drawing and art and how important drawing and creativity is in learning. So if you read a book, you watch a TED Talk, if you go to a class and you come out of that experience and you draw a picture, it's going to make that more sticky, more transferable. That process of stitching that knowledge together using art is actually really amazing. We also wanted to give our learners an opportunity to actually get their hands dirty with this technology in a creative way. And so what we have in this AI art reflection process is a 3-step process. What did I just learn? What am I going to do differently? And now think about a metaphor, an image that really represents the learning you just had, and then an ability to select from over 50 different art styles. And then the learner can decide if they want to submit that piece of art that gets generated to an AI art show for the program. And then that AI art show is displayed all over IMD's campus. Now, my hypothesis when we created the AI art show, it would just be a bit of a gimmick. You know, it'd just be something that's kind of fun, and oh, look at that, that's cool, I created this AI art. What we actually saw under the hood is that participants, on average, were going back and forth with the generative AI prompt over 10 times before they submitted it to the AI art show, which tells you there was critical thinking and creativity happening, which I was really, really excited to see. So I want to take you through the steps that we followed so that we could deliver what you saw in 6 weeks. So the first step is being hyper clear about what you are trying to achieve. That sounds pretty mundane and pretty obvious. What I am seeing in a lot of the implementations, especially in the learning organizations within companies, is it's just a shiny object right now. AI is like, wow. Take a step back and be really clear about what you're trying to achieve. For us at IMD, our learning innovation strategy is how do we drive more personalization for our learners and our participants, and how do we make that learning journey more interactive? Remember ancient Greece? Making sure that our learners can roll up their sleeves and actually have active forms of learning rather than passive, right? Passive is not sticky. Passive does not work. The second thing is being bold and starting simply. IMD, we're a pretty small business school compared to the big guys, right? For us to be the first business school in the world, when you've got Harvard and Wharton, where I came from, and others where they have super deep pockets, is pretty amazing. And it was because we have a culture of saying, you know what? Let's do this. Let's make sure that we're careful. Let's make sure that we're safe. Let's make sure we have a plan. But let's be bold. Let's be creative. And so this is again where, when we're working with a lot of organizations, it's coming up with that landscape of possibilities that you could start to innovate in. And it's really thinking about where are those higher return on investment use cases that are really simple. The reason you want simplicity is because as you're learning this technology looks like it's just out of the box, it's going to work for you. It's not going to work great. It works okay. It works well. It might astonish you, but it's going to take a lot of going back and forth and spending time with the different elements within your AI roadmap, within your AI pipeline, before you're going to get it right. And so starting simply means that you're going to gain muscles, right? You're going to gain acceptance within your organization. But having higher ROI is also going to get people excited. It's going to really energize your culture. It's going to energize your organization to think about what else you can be doing. The third thing we did was to make sure that we were careful. So there are lots and lots of things you need to be careful of as an organization. First and foremost, your IP going into these large language models. Actually, that's second. First and foremost, the safety and security of the users, right? Making sure that you've got an AI pipeline that is really being careful about personally identifiable information, the privacy, security, etc. And so what we did before we did any development as a senior leadership team, we sat down and we articulated what are the top 9 things that we want to make sure we accomplish with everything we do in our generative AI strategy. And within there, we looked at being ethical and responsible, secure and private, human-centric, explainable and transparent. So this is where you probably have seen in Bing Chat, you've got sources being provided, you've got linkages, you've got the ability to say, how did this answer even get created for me, right? Inclusive. We have a huge problem with bias in these algorithms. I just started working on a white paper with Microsoft and Equal Voice. Equal Voice is part of a very large publishing organization. They've been researching how female representation in the media. 18%, 1/8 of articles globally are written about women. So when you use media to train models, what do you think is going to happen? Bias. Non-representation, right? So we're starting to look at how we can make generative AI and the data being used to train generative AI more inclusive. It's also very North American-centric, very male-centric. I know Africa isn't represented as it should be. So these are things we need to be careful of when we use a technology like this in our organizations. The build versus buy, very relevant for an audience like this. This space, I said before, I've been in technology now for almost 30 years. This is moving faster than I've ever experienced. This technology, there's new, and it's not just a small improvement. These are leap forwards in improvement in adapters and other parts of the tooling coming out every single day. It's hard to keep up. It's like, whoa, right? And so what we do in our cycles as we're building out our engine room, AI engine room, as we're building out what we're doing, we're leaving a sprint to see, okay, we had to build that thing before. Microsoft now has it, Meta now has it, XYZ now has it. Let's take some time to let them own that technical debt so that we are investing our technology cycles in things that we're innovating in, right? And so the build versus buy is actually incredibly important, that you leave time in your technology cycles to do that. Continuous improvement, being brave, sustainable. You all know this, I'm sure. Generative AI is an energy hog. It's a water hog. It is not sustainable. When you look at Microsoft and their numbers, they want it to be carbon neutral. I think it was by 2030 or 2040. That's not happening after last year. So these algorithms are heavy. And so that's the other aspect we need to look at is right now we're flying a jumbo jet to the grocery store for everything. Every 16 prompts consumes a bottle of fresh water. ChatGPT 3.5 took 700,000 liters of fresh water to cool the infrastructure to train those models, right? We need to be really careful. IT is, I think, is consuming a huge percentage of energy. So can we use smaller models for the jobs? Can we get more specific about the LLM tooling, the generative AI tooling, and not use those huge jumbo jets for everything we're trying to do? And the answer is not just yes, but it is we have to. Another thing we did was we created an AI steering committee. And that AI steering committee has a mandate. And part of this steering committee is also making sure that we have a wide variety of expertise. It's not all just AI expertise. We have David Bach, who's actually going to be stepping in to be president of IMD on September 1st. Mishek and Oiku and Amit are all professors of AI and digital transformation. Oiku, her expertise is cybersecurity and AI governance and ethics. So she's really become my partner in crime. And Sarah, did you see this research? Did you see this adapter? Really helping me on that side. Louis is our COO. Michael Watkins is actually a professor. So he is in the Thinker 50 Hall of Fame. He's a professor of change management, team culture. So he's helping us to really think about, as we become more generative AI savvy as an organization, what do we need to do to make sure we don't leave people behind? That we have an inclusive culture in what we're doing internally and also externally. And then Claire Joyner is our lawyer. She's our co-counsel, and I've turned her into a nerd. I'm really proud of that. So we spend a lot of time looking at what's happening with the different governance, making sure that we've got expertise at the table to help us, especially as we move into EU governance of AI. It's a really tricky area. Another area I would like to, so as I've said, I've been in IT forever. I've been shocked at how many revolutions have come where the business has handed all the keys to the kingdom, all the reins over to the IT team to make all the decisions. Whether it be about CRM, whether it be about XYZ, it's like, you're the experts, you go do it, right? And I think we've probably all experienced this. We as technologists have not been trained to be ethical. We might be ethical, but we haven't been trained in what IT ethics looks like, AI ethics. I truly believe that this step right now is when we need to engage with other areas across the organization. When you look at the DE&I space, this has been around since the 1960s. It is a profession, right? It is a profession because it is studied. There's lots and lots of research. There's tons of expertise. And in my experience, when you bring the DE&I team to the table to talk about AI, their eyes light up. They get super excited. So I have a lot of conversations with our chief DE&I officer, and she's really been helping me to think about things from the DE&I space that we need to be thinking about in the AI governance space. So bring your organization together. Think about experts beyond IT to really help guide you as you move into this space. And quite honestly, you're going to be able to move faster. A good example, this is an article I co-authored with our chief D&I officer and a couple of faculty at IMD. And we took a DE&I house model and we applied it in the article to what we should be doing with AI governance. So thinking about your definition of principles, which I just shared with you, what IMDs are, how you communicate and educate within your organization, not just internally, but now as we engage with clients and show them the value proposition of having an AI-enabled course, a lot of them are scared. How do you make them feel comfortable that this is actually going to be the next wave in education and it's going to be very, very beneficial, very, very impactful for their learners coming to IMD? Thinking about your data, your design, and your delivery. And then last but not least, your foundation layer is AI governance. You know, what does AI governance look like? Some of this is policies, some of this is procedures, your procurement procedures, et cetera, et cetera. But all of this, your AI house, needs to be in order. If you go to my IMD, I can share it. I can get you a link if you're interested in reading the article. The fourth thing that I recommend is being brave about what this new capability can unlock. So as I said, not just looking at, okay, just the productivity gains, just the task replacement gains. Are there things in our business that we couldn't do before that we can now do? How we bring more of a value proposition to our customers, to our employees, to those in our communities. These are all really important. So as you saw in the video, we now have AI-enabled dozens and dozens of our classes, our entire MBA, our entire EMBA, all of our executive masters. This means that our participants, they can ask questions of the courses, the classes, our MyIMD magazine, months, if not years, after they have left IMD. We're now with them in their pocket. I also wanted to show you an example of where we've gone with the AI art show. That's now available within the app for the participants, so as new art is added, they can engage with it and see it. Et voila. This shit was done in 6 weeks. But we didn't end at 6 weeks, obviously. What we have continued to do is test, learn, adjust, and scale. And so it's also not being too precious about the ideas we have, So if there are things that don't seem to be bringing that value, it may have seemed really, really cool to us as a team, but we're not seeing the engagement, we're not too married to it. We're really thinking about that. One example is the pull and the push of what we've designed. So right now we have a pull. You're coming into our app, you're engaging in our, asking questions. But as we get to know you, as we get to know what you're interested in, we can now push. You were asking about inclusive leadership. You were asking about a sustainability transformation journey in your company. We have new research on that. We have a new video. We have a new podcast, etc. We can now deliver information to you. As I mentioned, our entire MBA is now AI-enabled, which has been absolutely phenomenal. And I've actually engaged with our MBA students to help me make this tool better as well. So using them as sort of our closest, they're going to be alumni soon, getting them really engaged. A lot of them are looking at generative AI, and when they leave their MBA, how they then start integrating that into their professional journey. So it's been a great partnership. As I mentioned, we're just beginning. We've taken that first idea from last year, scaled it up. We're also looking at nudging journeys. So for example, you come to us and you say, I want to become a more grounded leader. I want to become a more inspirational leader or a more inclusive leader. What the heck does that mean? This is where AI can really help. How do we have a conversation within this tool to help that goal of becoming a more grounded leader be actually achievable? So that AI conversation will also nudge you and help you to think about those different learning objectives that you have in our programs well beyond the program being over. And then again, surrounding you with information, with content to help with those goals. We're also moving into generative AI role-playing games. We're partnering with Wharton potentially in an open source platform that they're creating. One of the areas that we're all facing is the need for more green skills within our organizations. So we're working on our first AI game is going to be in the ESG space. It's going to be something that will be free. It will also be a companion game that goes along with our ESG course on Coursera. So again, thinking about how we drive into more interactivity and more personalization within the learning journey. At this point, I'm done. But if there are any questions, I'm also going to be around for most of the day. I'm very happy to engage with you and have a cup of tea and answer any questions. Thank you. Any questions? Yes. Do we have a mic?
Can we get the mic there, please? There. She is standing up, Bontley, on your chair. It's the oldest joke, sorry.
That's good, I can hear you.
You spoke a lot about the values that you implemented in terms of this, and more especially human centricity and inclusivity, right? And you also said in your third consideration, it was get your shit done right, from the beginning. So my question is, were there any special considerations taken into neurodivergence and neurodivergent learners? Or is it incidental that the algorithm at some point will pick that up?
Yeah, so great question. There are some great edtech startups working in neurodivergent. I would say what this is speaking to is the fact that we have a lot of people who don't feel comfortable or secure enough to raise their hand and ask a question, right? Or that question is coming months and months later. Neurodivergent, not specifically. I do think that that's a very important area for education, something that we definitely need to focus on. As we move into our coaching and our nudging journeys, for sure, I think that that is going to come in. So we work on a lot of assessment journeys with companies where we're looking at different strengths, weaknesses, situational judgment, etc. And these are some areas that certainly could touch on that as well. So really, really great question. Any other questions? Got one in the back. Run!
Good morning.
Good morning.
I must admit my throat is very sore, so I sound like a teenage boy today. But yeah, thank you for the presentation. It was really great. I wanted to ask, I didn't hear specifically the key metrics that you're using to track value outcome. I know you mentioned like you're approaching new clients, you think there's going to be some productivity gains, but what exactly are you tracking in terms of value created? And why I'm asking is because I think AI is a big space at the moment, and I think you also mentioned it, a lot of things seem cool, but sometimes it's just in our head that it's cool and it's not creating real value. So is there some specific key metrics that you could use that others could also adopt?
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really great question. So a number of different answers to that question. One of the targets we're looking at is the engagement beyond the program and the class, right? So are we seeing continued engagement? The second thing we're looking at, and the answer is yes, we are. So that was one hypothesis. Is there value in having a generative AI tool where those questions can keep coming in well after the program ends, well after the participants leave campus? And we are still seeing really fantastic engagement. Where we're seeing value left off the table is we could be pushing that conversation further. And so that's where we're now saying, okay, it's really from a design standpoint, the pull and the push, right? We're definitely getting the pull. We're seeing good thumbs up there, but now we need to enrich that conversation. Not just let generative AI do the work, but we need some processes to help enrich it. The second thing we're doing is we're analyzing the quality of the questions coming in. And our next step actually is to embed within the tool, create more analytics for the learner. So for example, I might ask a question, XYZ, and within that learning question, within that conversation, say, look, you're asking this question. If you slightly change the question, you could make the question more innovative. You could actually get higher quality answers. And so we're using, for example, Bloom's taxonomy and some other taxonomies, which are in the learning space, to really analyze the questions. The third thing we're doing is we're also looking at how we bring more of a community into the generative AI tool. So community, learning from peers is really important. And it's a very lonely experience in generative AI. It's really you and the algorithm, right? And so what we're doing there is thinking about topic analysis, sentiment analysis. So you in your learning community, what are other people asking? And we can anonymize that data. We can give a whole area, a landscape of different questions being asked in our different classes so that you can go and explore other areas. And last but not least, we're providing data back to our professors. So these are the questions being asked by your students today. What are you missing in your curriculum, in your class? So really providing that kind of closing that loop and making sure that they have that analysis at their fingertips. And then I'm really excited about what's also coming. So we work a lot in executive education. We have a very large travel client that just began with IMD. We're just starting a big leadership journey with them and their executives. And what we've said is, we've got lots of data islands, lots of connection islands that we have with our clients in general. How do we use generative AI to connect all of that? So we do a lot of client interviews with stakeholders before we even begin the design of the program. And then we move into the program where we have, sometimes it's 200 people from the top teams, sometimes it's 10,000 people within our open enrollment classes. Can we provide analysis that really pulls that whole engagement together and gives much more analysis back to the client in an anonymized, safe way? So utilizing that end-to-end engagement with the client to help them with whatever transformation they're working on in their company. So lots and lots of opportunities, and we are definitely mining all the interactions that are happening within our AI tools over this last year to really think about new business models. I also alluded to the fact that coming to do a degree is becoming harder and harder. There's been definitely a dip in MBA enrollments around the world. We as an elite top business school, we have to continue to reimagine ourselves as well. So how are we more learner-centric? How are we more human-centric? And really delivering a valuable business education that is also modern. So thank you, great question. Other questions? I have 13 seconds, I'm off the stage. All right, thank you again, I really appreciate it.